we end up getting these great people in the media who are experts out in the field who claim that they know everything about looking for a job when they themselves have probably never really honestly looked for a job. So I think it's important that we kind of look back at what they were saying about a month ago and comparing that to where we are today. So let's take a look. So here's the headline from CNBC. Finding a job is getting harder, even in a strong labor market. It's just a mess, says Recruiting Pro. I love these headlines. They suggest that the recruiting pro is the person who really knows everything about the market. Now, it is true, yeah, a lot of recruiters do indeed know a lot about recruiting. They do know a lot about the labor market. But most recruiters haven't looked for a job in years. So for fun, let's just start reading right here. The job market might look solid on paper. Unemployment is low, job openings are high. But the reality for many Americans on the job hunt tells a different story. Now, if they want to keep the economy going, and you would think they would do whatever they could to incentivize companies to come in. And then we see the second part here, and I find this really interesting. Job openings are high. Job openings are high. So what does that mean? It means, come on, dummy, you can find a job. There's all kinds of openings out there. They're all over the place. What's the problem? Now, we all know because we've been out there and we've seen what's happened. We all know people who have lost their jobs. Heck, if you've been on LinkedIn, you see all the time, hey, a bunch of people are open for work. Yes, they're open for work. A lot of people available, and they all want jobs. They're all open for work. They want to work. And there are a lot of job openings. So that really makes us wonder what the heck is going on. Now, in reality, we both know that the issue is that there has to be good jobs, right? Jobs that at least pay $100,000 a year. And unfortunately, a lot of those jobs really aren't out there. All right, let's keep reading. Here we go. First thing that we see. LinkedIn feeds are crowded with layoff announcements. Don't we know it? Mentions of recruiters ghosting job applicants have more than doubled on Glassdoor since before the COVID-19 pandemic. Ah, the COVID pandemic, yes. That pretty much destroyed most of everything now, didn't it? It's frustrating and disorienting. Finding a new job has never felt this difficult. But I'll tell you what, if you're out looking for a job right now, there are ways to build your career, and these are things that I help people with. There are ways to build your career, ways to develop yourself, so you're not finding the job hunt so difficult. There are a lot of talented people who are being let go, and that is unfortunate and really difficult. But the reality is, there are jobs out there, and we can build our lives, we can build our careers with what is available. The problem that we have right now is that we need more businesses that have jobs. And as the larger companies all consolidate into these massive global corporations, the number of jobs, more importantly, good jobs, those are going to come down, right? You just use basic logic. If you have more companies, you're going to have more good jobs. And what we have right now is a situation where the large companies have made it near impossible for these smaller companies to be able to move up in the ranks. Because of government regulations and other restrictions on corporations, it has made it really difficult for small businesses to grow. And during COVID, a ton of businesses were closed down. Now, especially if you're in different parts of America, you know very damn well that you had different restaurants that have closed and a lot of other small businesses that have closed. And while the big box stores were allowed to stay open during COVID, a lot of these other places were not. Okay? Easy to forget about these places when they're shut down. So let's get back to it. So we have this person that says it felt very difficult looking for a job. I'll tell you what, I don't know if you're old enough to recall, but in 2008, when we had the big economic collapse that changed America, the number of positions that came available dwindled like crazy. So let's unpack this a little bit deeper. So prior to 2008, most companies, from what I observed, would always keep extra staff on hand. So for example, if you needed 3 accounts payable people to work for your company, it took 3 to get all the work done. Prior to 2008, a lot of companies would actually add an extra person. that would be available so that one of the other three people could go on a break or could go on vacation, or if they got fired or laid off, there was always a third person to move into that role, and then they would hire a new person. After 2008, really things squeezed really tight. We really got to this situation to where every company had to find ways to make ends meet, and it became a lot more difficult. And so what we saw and what we experienced is what I call the -1 hiring practice. And what that means is if you need 3 people to do the accounts payable, you're actually going to only carry 2. You're going to carry the number of people you need, not +1, but -1. So you're going to take the number of people that you need, which is 3, and you're going to carry 2. And the reason is at any given time, if you take a snapshot of that company, you'll realize that 2 people is enough to get the job done on a regular basis. Maybe not for the entire year, but for the most part, for a small amount of time, it is enough to get the job done. Now, of course, when one of those 2 people wants to go on a vacation, or they get sick, or they get fired, they find a different job, then they're down to 1. And you might think this is crazy, but actually it's incredibly common. And the worst part about this is a lot of companies are actually going deeper than just -1. They'll go down to -2 or -3. They'll do whatever it takes to get the job done with as few people as possible. I actually saw this while I was working in IT as a software engineer. You would think, okay, well, it's going to take a team of 5 to get all the work done. So we have a manager, we have a few business analysts, and you have some software engineers. Now, you would think that's a pretty good team, and you always make sure you have one lead engineer and always bring somebody up from the bottom, and then you cycle through as people quit. But what a lot of these large companies have done, especially in the IT world, is they have simply removed the manager, removed the business analyst, and said, these engineers can pretty well handle everything that's needed. And while that may be true, inevitably, what happens is an engineer ends up being the manager. An engineer ends up being the business analyst. So you're really not improving the situation. All you're really doing is just shifting the responsibilities from somebody with a different title to software engineer. What really happens out of that is that they require fewer people to get the job done. Okay, if we keep reading, we kind of come down here. Some companies have asked him to go through several rounds of interviews and then disappeared. Others sent him take-home tests or asked him to record video responses to AI-generated questions. So we see this a lot. We see people who go through a long interview process. Generally speaking, the idea is the more that you interview someone, the more likely you are to find out if you like the person or not. What's happening in reality is that we have these HR people who really don't give a crap whether you get the job or not. It's not up to them to give you a job or to help you get a job. Really, all they're after is trying to find a way to disqualify you from a job. And so when you see things like this where it takes 2, 3, 4, 5 or more steps in the interview process to actually get the job, it's just a way to weed you out. A lot of the actual hiring practices, the process for going through interviews, is really just a weeding out process. Each interview you do is just another opportunity for the HR people to disqualify you from that position. Okay, so if we keep reading, we got this quote here. I'm optimistic that things will work out. I just think the numbers are underselling how hard it is for job seekers right now. Economists and recruiters say lingering expectations from the Great Resignation and businesses' fears about an imminent recession could be to blame for job seekers' malaise. I'll tell you what, I went through 2008. I experienced what that was like. I don't care what the numbers say. Guys, we're in a recession, and this is a big one. And this is a recession like we have never seen before. We're just, 4 years removed from COVID. And so we have the effect where all these small businesses were taken out during COVID, which left pretty much all the larger companies. But to say there's fear about a recession that is coming, we have been in a recession, and it's been going on for at least the last 6 months. And you can be as optimistic as you want to be about it, but the reality is we just all need jobs. We need to work. We need to feed our families. We need to feed ourselves. And right now, with the way the world is right now, especially in America, we have all the immigration that's going on. We've got people fleeing the larger cities. We have situations where crime is up. We have a lot of reasons for things to be falling apart. Things are actual bat crap right now. Okay, maybe not literally. And so as we keep reading, we have this, this article kind of breaks down to section. Job seekers have whiplash from the Great Resignation. A major reason people are burned out from searching for a new job could be due to unrealistic or outdated expectations. How people feel about the job market is informed by their recent experiences with the job market. I'll tell you what, if you're out looking for a job right now, there is no training anywhere on how to actually look for a job. You think about that. All these years we've had the internet, the internet's been pretty solid for the last 20 years. And there are all these, helpful websites, that say, oh, here's the top 10 tips for finding a job. Guys, nobody online is helping you find a job. These places like Indeed and Glassdoor and some of the other places, they're great companies and they're great for using for your job hunt. But there's a better way to look for a job. And right now, what pains me, because I've been a job hunter for so many years, is that nobody out there actually shows you how to find a job. And so for me, it took until I was 35 before I figured it out. Is there magic to it? No, there's a process involved. And there are some things you need to know. But they should be teaching this to you in high school. They should be teaching this to you in college. But you know what? Those people who teach you to look for a job in college and in high school have never looked for a job on their own. Just think about it. It's ridiculous to think about. You have somebody who went to public school or private school perhaps. They went all the way into college. They went 4 years. They grinded it out until they were in their early 20s. And they said, I now have my teaching certificate. And you say, good for you. You have your teaching certificate. And they say, I'm not going to go in the job force. I'm going to get my master's degree. And then they spend a few more years. Maybe they go to the classroom. They sit down and they learn what it's like to be a teacher. But do you know what these people never learn to do? They never learned to job hunt. Just think about the counselor who sat down and said, son, you should be a police officer. Or, little Maggie, you should be a doctor. And they do all these tests, and I understand. There's all these wonderful tests that they do where you're a blue, or you're a green, or you're a red, or yellow, all that crazy-ass crap. And, there's a lot that goes in with that, and there's a lot of value to that. But just remember, what they tell you, whether you're a yellow, a green, a blue, or a red, okay, that might help you on figuring out what kind of personality you are. They may go through and have you actually do a test. There ain't nobody who knows what you should be more than you. More importantly, there's nothing that can tell you what kind of job you should have more than you experiencing it in real life. I'll tell you how you figure out how to find a job and what you like and what you don't like. It's by working. Revolutionary. You don't even have to buy my book to find that out. Just by working. If you work, you will figure out what kind of job you like to have and what kind of career you want to have. Why? Because you'll find out all the stupid crap that you never wanted to do in your life. Maybe you push a mower when you're 14 years old and you say, man, I don't want to do this crap. I want to be working inside. Well, there's a clue for you right there. That pretty well cuts it in half of the possibilities that you have for career opportunity. Okay, so if we keep reading, we kind of go through down here and they talk a lot about the job market. They have things like nearly 70% of job seekers say their current search is more difficult than their last one. Yeah, it's going to be more and more difficult, especially during a recession. That's what you discover in a recession. It's difficult. And then as we get down, further down the page, we have the high inflation and the threat of a potential downturn are casting a dark shadow over the labor market. Yeah, and again, I don't want to beat a dead horse again, but the reason that we have fewer jobs out there is we have fewer companies. And until people decide enough's enough, I can't work for $15 an hour. I can't work for $20 an hour. I have to actually work and actually earn some money. And what you'll end up doing is you need to get off your butt and go start a business. So it reads, for much of 2023, companies felt like a recession was lurking around the corner and pulled back on hiring as a result. Those fears aren't gone yet. No, they're not. Business leaders are still concerned that a recession is possible, even if it's not 100% certain. Like I said before, we are in a recession. A lot of this, like I said, why is it important that we're going through this article? This is where we were a month ago. Do you think it's any better right now? At all? Really? I mean, right now, I don't hear of any jobs being filled. I don't hear people getting jobs. We're pretty much at this point, the only jobs that are getting filled are backlog jobs. The only jobs that are getting filled right now are backfill jobs. And if you don't know what that is, it's basically somebody leaves or quits or gets fired, and the company says, crap, we need to fill that job, and we need it now. And so again, why are we talking about this? Because things aren't better than they were a month ago. Things are actually, in my opinion, worse than they were a month ago, or 2 months ago, 3 months ago. And I'll tell you what, this is going to be a tough year. But in all the doom and gloom, there actually is a way to figure out how to get a job. And I know that's me. I help you. But I actually want to help you. You know, how would you like to get a job even in this sort of environment? And as tough as it is, look, I know, in 2008 going into 2009, I had a job making $39,000 a year. Okay, it wasn't great. I had awesome benefits, but the compensation to pay wasn't that great. But I quit my job in 2009, and I learned over the next 15 years of what it took to find a job. Over the last 15 years, it's amazing that I ended up when I did and where I did. And the fact that my family stuck with me that whole time as I was looking for work, as trying to figure it out, that was tough. That was tough. And the part in our culture that's really missing is we shouldn't be figuring this stuff out when we're in our 30s or 40s. We should be figuring out what job I want, what career I want when I'm in my teens. And if not that, maybe your 20s. Because the earlier you figure it out, the more productive you could be for the rest of your life. The happier you could be for the rest of your life. All this bull crap of people saying, oh, you got to go to college right away. They're just setting you up for failure. There has to be a reason for you to go to college. And that's it. Okay. All right. So here we have the labor market post 9 million openings in December. And there are still roughly 1.4 open jobs for every unemployed person. I don't know if you guys have LinkedIn. I'm connected to a lot of recruiters on LinkedIn over the years. Probably about half of my connections are in the employment industry because I've spent so many years looking for jobs and actually helping others look for jobs. What I've noticed is a lot of recruiters are getting laid off. I'll tell you what, I've been in the labor market for more than 20 years. I have never seen recruiters get laid off. I want you to think about that for a moment. If recruiters are getting laid off, that means the company that laid them off has no plans on bringing in new employees. So if you unpack that a little bit, you kind of realize they need the recruiters to actually bring people in. They have no jobs available to fill. Why do they need the recruiters? So I think you all get the point here. The job market's a little bit suspect right now. We all know that. We could feel it. We've noticed it when we look for work. But there is a way, right? Build your skill. And once you build the skill, then you're able to get a nice job. But you can't do that. If you're just going from one job to another, and you're going, oh, I'm going to go get this job here. And you say, well, it pays $1 more than my other job. That's not going to work for you. What you got to do is you got to build skill, no matter what it pays. Once you build the skill over time, then you keep on building on top of that. Now, of course, the skill has to be a valuable skill. If your skill is flower picking, that's probably not going to be that great for you unless you're a farmer. That's a whole other issue. But I'm going to end it here. I like to look at articles every once in a while to talk about them because, folks, there's a lot going on out there. There's going to be turmoil, especially this year, especially once we get close to the election. Okay? So hang in there. Be strong. If you need any help looking for a job, or you have some questions, let me know at questions@jobforno.com. I'll catch you again next time.